We love you too, my friend. Sorry you're upset with Harrison again. Didn't think we'd ever hear his name again, Selma. We're going to do our best to behave, Selma. So we're waiting for to behave, Selma. Here we go. We're waiting for MsBlipper. We're going to talk miracles, Course Miracles. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We do not have a planned subject. I don't think we need one. Sometimes we do. Hey, Lee.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Good. How was your visit? Family, your brother, right?
Yeah, my brother was here, and my brother's partner was here, and my daughter was around for a while, and then now my cousin is here with his husband from New York, but they're out at a Laurie Anderson concert tonight.
Thanks for fitting me in.
No, not. It's my pleasure, Eric, always.
Hey, have you ever heard of an Italian pop rock singer in the 70s? I think he's in his 80s now, but he's still fairly current. He's also an actor. And he did a song, I can't pronounce the name, but it was gibberish.
Oh, yeah. Was he pretending to be American? Andrea, somebody or other? Yeah, I've heard it.
It just came on my radar for the first time. It was, and I was like, "What is he singing?" I had to research it because I couldn't. I knew he was. It sounded like he was singing English.
He was just making it up for fun, because at that time, American pop music was a big deal, and so he's like, "I can do Elvis," but he couldn't speak English. It was just a way to kind of poke fun. He really was very, very famous. I think he's still alive too.
He is, yeah. I looked him up.
Yeah. I watched your the video with is it Katy Perry? Yeah.
Emily
Perry, excuse me, and married to Robert Perry, right? And it was great. I really loved it. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I loved it too.
She's really articulate, and I really liked how she explained things. I found it really helpful.
I might reach out to Robert sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
What this is a good place for us to start with. Hey, Squirrel Sniper. He says, Eric, MsBlipper.
Chipmunk.
Versions of the course. Doesn't matter.
No.
The Urtex, the Robert Perry's anointed version.
I say whatever people swing with, doesn't matter to me a hoot, really doesn't. I do, maybe because I've been, studying it a long time, I do like to look at kind of Emily and Robert, for example. They're really good at having like cross-reference the versions, so they know exactly what was in one that wasn't in another one, even though those differences are pretty small.
Right.
But so sometimes I look to other people who are far more kind of practiced on the version business than I am.
I always think the one that resonates with you.
Yeah.
And although some are like, the personal information was taken out for a reason. They didn't think it belonged. And it was approved by Helen and Bill.
Mm-hmm.
But, if people find it useful.
Yeah, it's kind of like, some people get all up in arms about Kenneth Wapnick for all sorts of reasons too. And it doesn't bother me. Kenneth Wapnick, I don't feel like I have to be a devotee of Kenneth Wapnick. I don't feel like he ever asked me to be,
Right. I'm about this
I
close.
just look at him as like another teacher, like you or me. He was a nice guy. He's educated, he's smart, he did a good editing job.
Do you know what's happening with me and Kenneth Wapnick right now?
Yeah, you're channeling him. He's been knocking at the inside of your soul.
He has been knocking on the inside. I think it less channeling and more annoying me and correcting me. as he
Right.
sees fit.
That's good. Slapping you around a bit. Good.
Um, there's a non-duality teacher, our friend um, Fiona, who came up a couple weeks ago, is friends with him, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember his name, but he has his channel, his YouTube channel. I'm going to reach out to him maybe today. Um, his channel is called the Zen Bitch Slap,
Oh, okay. There you go.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, old dog. Um, I, you know, a lot of people say Kenneth Wapnick is a purist because he was there from the beginning and he's pure. He offers pure non-duality. Um, and other people say that Robert Perry is a purist because he wants the whole text and all of it,
Mhm.
and he does not believe the course is non-duality. I think it's sort of. I think they come to the same point. In the end, there's just God, um, and the many faceted.
Emily said something that was very, very beautiful and wise. And I mean, she said a lot of things that were beautiful and wise. But one of the things that stood out for me was um, kind of the idea of taking a holistic approach. You can't just cherry pick the bits that you like and just look there and not look at, go with the whole thing, what works for you. And my feeling, and it perhaps is nothing more than just that, a feeling and intuition, is that um everything has its place, everything, all teachers, some people might like need Kenneth Wapnick to sort of put highlight or accent on certain parts that might not have been as easy for them to process, or they need his kind of logic or structure, whereas
Right.
other people might need like a certain kind of gentleness or friendliness or whatever. Well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't feel like I have an expectation necessarily for everybody being on the same page in the same way.
Sure. What I like about Kenneth Wapnick is he sets me straight, but very kindly,
Hmm.
but with no nonsense. It's okay to choose something other than what the Holy Spirit is telling you. It's okay to choose something than what the Course points out. Just know that you're doing it and know that you're wrong.
Mistaken, darling.
Right.
Mistaken. Which gets me to kind of the subject that I was hoping we might touch upon today. Just as an idea, I mean, it's up to you, of course, which is my lesson today is about will, about not having my will and God's will conflict. Like there shouldn't be any conflicting wills, So I kind of did a dive, because will isn't something that is defined in the teacher's manual, the clarification of terms. And so I was kind of looking to see, well, did they ever like get into that? And so I only got as far as chapter 4 in the text on all things will, but it was fun. It was a fun dive. I
Um,
guess this came up for me because something new happened to me this week. It's never done it. I've been in Italy for 37 years. 37 years. I have never visited the Pope, not once.
well,
That's not because I'm not Catholic. I've been to the Sistine Chapel. I took the Harlem Globetrotters on a tour of the Sistine Chapel. Um, but my cousin's friend who's here is Catholic, and he really wanted to go see the Pope yesterday, so we did. Pope
nice.
Bob, which has really been kind of interesting for me because it's like there's so much of the history of religion in the church, and how they got the message across and mismanaged the message, and versions and versions and versions and chasms and chasms and chasms and
I like
all
this
that.
book.
What?
I like this book.
You like Pope Bob? Yeah.
Yep.
I like him too. He's okay so far, so good. Um, he was very good friends with the last Pope, Francis. He was. They were very good buddies, and I like that he sings. He loves music, and I guess so far the only complaint that people have had about him is that sometimes he seems to lack gravitas, like he's not, immediately taking a deep dive into the
Right.
hot and heavy messes of the world. Although when I saw him on Sunday, yesterday, he did a shout out for South Sudan and some of the problems that are going
Seems to
on.
be a voice and a unabashed voice for the downtrodden, for those who
True.
are
Yeah, they've been working on their PR for a long time because it had gotten really bad under Ratzinger.
right. Interesting. You know, today for me, and the course is day 76,
Okay.
and it is I will there be light.
Ah,
So
there you go. So you're on
spe-
Will too.
speaking of
Hey,
will, yep.
speaking of Will.
Um, and because uh, I do not will darkness
Hmm.
is the second part of that, and that it's interesting aligning our will with God's will, um, and I guess really there's only an apparent separation because if our will is not aligned, it's the will of the ego, and with the ego being uh, ultimately not real. You know, obviously it feels real in our life. I want to point out to people because we often hear and they often hear people come up and they hear us say that the ego is ultimately fictitious, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a very real experience of the ego,
Yeah.
and we will as long as we're in a body. The goal is not to eradicate the ego.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that I read about it today about will, um, and uh, is that it's actually when we let the ego misuse will, and that's what's causing a lot of pain and suffering both in ourselves and in the world, is
Right.
when we allow ego to misuse will. But yeah, will's always around.
One of my favorite parts in um, I don't remember what lesson, but it's actually somewhere in the 70s. Is um, actually no, it's in the text in the rules for decision making,
Okay.
uh, where we literally say, um, "What should I do? What should I do? What should I do today? Where should I go? Where should I go? Uh, what should I say and to whom?" Uh,
Hmm.
which is really saying, um,
What's your will?
"Yes,
Yeah.
not my will, but thine, but thou, but his or hers."
Yeah, although there are both, I think it's that there's no. My lesson today is that there's no contradictions. So it isn't that it's not like his will or your will, but that his will and your will don't have any contradictions between them. Aren't contradicting. They're unified. They're
Right.
operating together.
And ultimately, it can't be a matter of ego's will versus God's will, because if the ego doesn't truly exist, and if God doesn't see our will, um, our ego's will, because that
Hmm.
would make it real. God won't acknowledge false because it's false.
Hmm.
Then, at the end, we're almost in a uh, Don Quixote tilting at windmills with the ego. Eventually, we run out of options.
Yeah. I like to return then to what you were saying, which is just like you kind of see that something, you see that there is a choice, and you decide that that you know you kind of accept the guidance that you would rather be harmonious with God's will, that you'd rather that your will be harmonious with God's will than trying to be against it.
Right. You ready for our first question?
You betcha.
Um, we got actually two from Sniper. Let me do this one first. Question: according to A Course in Miracles, where does an individual free will actually reside?
Mm, you got it in your mind. It's for real though. I mean, the Course in Miracles uh, is a big fan of the free will. It speaks about free will a lot. It doesn't negate free will. It's like that. That is what it says more than anything else, is that it would like us to be able to become aware of just how powerful free will is, just how much we do have of free will. Like, instead of like trying to squash free will, it's actually going, become aware of the power of the free will that you do have.
I like Kenneth
A lot.
Wapnick's diagram that he's drawn before. Of we have the ego. I don't know why I always point out on the left the ego, and then we have as if it actually exists on one side and the other side.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
And then we have the Holy Spirit.
Uh-huh.
And then the third part, the mind is actually split in three ways. We have the decision maker, and it is and ultimately none of them are, all of them are symbols. But the decision maker is where the origin of free will would be, is the one is either choosing the ego or is choosing the Holy Spirit. And the Course is training us to relate to the decision maker, because the more we relate to the decision maker, the more that we make the proper decision of the Holy Spirit. The
Yeah,
reason why it's
it would be counterproductive in AC in A Course in Miracles. It would be counterproductive of it to take anything away from your mind or your freedom. It wants you to have mind. It wants you to have freedom.
and his follow-up question was, what does A Course in Miracles teach about the concept of coercion, and specifically, why is it considered impossible in relation to God's will?
Oh wow. Well, ultimately everything is God's will. That's why it's impossible. But that's uh like a in ultimate scenario. I'm not saying we're there yet right now.
Right.
But yeah, all is love. What was, the quote by heart about um nothing unreal can,
Oh,
nothing real can,
right.
what is that one about exists.
Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists.
Yes, that
Herein
one.
lies the peace of God.
Right.
Um, so, man, I absolutely love that. I always come back to it because it just sums everything up. If I'm afraid, if I'm coerced in any way, it's if I feel threatened. If I'm being coerced, I'm feeling threatened. I'm doing something against
Mhm.
my will. And go ahead.
Nothing. I think it's important again to acknowledge that when something is scary or seems painful or seems like you're even being coerced, that is kind of like n- almost noticing that um, there's been a misuse of will. Like, there's a discontent in how the will has been used, um, and that makes feelings that are uncomfortable. But um once that's acknowledged, that can just be like handed over for corrections. If it's something just to be corrected, nothing more than that. Very
Right.
dust to dust stuff.
And Snipper follows up with, if free will resides within the mind, can free will be duped with coercion? Coercion.
Yeah, people can, well, what was the word? Duped.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, getting duped is definitely, a possibility. I think we do get duped. I think we get duped all the time.
I think we
But
dupe ourselves.
what?
I think we dupe ourselves,
Also,
believing
yeah,
when we
primarily,
right when we
primarily,
say that
yeah,
I have free will and I am, uh, we're sort of giving ourselves the impression that it's us against the universe, that I can choose, I forge my own destiny. And the course does say the script is written. We just, we have choices, we have decisions within the script, but ultimately the script itself is written. And ultimately, we are asleep in the mind of God. Uh, and what we want to do, every choice that we ultimately want to make, is to wake up. So really, I think anytime that we're ever manipulated is when we choose the ego, because we're choosing an illusion. We're manipulating ourselves.
yeah. Or we just find yourself someplace on the learning curve. I
Right.
I, I reread when you were talking to Emily. I ran across the quote about just repeating things, and until you get it. But I appreciate that question because um, I guess for some people the idea of um, God can seem scary. I don't believe in a punitive God, so I don't have that association so big to worry about. Although that's not to say my ego hasn't fought a lot and hard to be
Right.
boss at times. It certainly has.
Ultimately, they can't be a punishing God, because God would only be punishing himself, herself.
It's himself, yeah, itself.
It's
True.
self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah.
And you know why?
Well, it would cease to be consistent too. It would cease to be creation.
Right.
If God is anything, it's consistent. Yeah.
And what an amazing thing to consider while we're here in this body is that we're not, we often think, why am I being punished by God? Why is God doing this to me? God is saying, wake up, wake up, very gently. I love
Yeah.
the analogy of, the child in bed having a
Mhm.
nightmare, and you don't
Right.
run in and flash on the light and shake him by the shoulder and say, wake up. God very gently says, wake up. I
Right.
love you. You're not being punished. You're dreaming of punishment.
Right. There's also that kind of twilight stage where um it's like people they're waking up, but they're not quite aware of waking up. They're still kind of in a dream state.
Hey, a little off topic. Are you familiar with Tom uh, Wakechild?
Tom Wakechild. The name sound rings a bell, but I don't know why.
He's written several books on A Course in Miracles, quite a
Okay.
few. Course in Miracles Made Practical, Course in Miracles. Um, I think he would be very. Give me one second. I'll read some of his titles. Finding Fear, Fearless Awakening, Ending Fear. Let's see. But he's broken down the lessons, decoding and living A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles Made Practical, understanding A Course in Miracles workbook lessons, and he's done all through the text, different volumes. He's coming up tomorrow evening. He just reached out sort of um, unexpectedly. So tomorrow
Nice.
is James Twyman in the afternoon. Um, my first foray with a New York Times bestselling author.
All
Uh,
right.
little exciting, little intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Hope he doesn't use big words.
Mm-hmm.
And
A lot of my a lot of my books come from the New York Times slush pile because my brothers used to work for the New York Times for many years, and so they have a room which is just called the slush pile. It's just free books, the books that people send the New York Times, and so you would go in there and get me freebies, lots of them for many years. Yeah,
Nice.
good source,
Um,
weird library.
let's see. Check and see if we have any other questions. I think Sniper handled this question very well. Someone says, I love your channel. Can I subscribe to your channel? So I was transracial, but after waking up this morning, I decided to be bispecies. I identify as both a human and a cat. What advice do you have? And Sniper said, just be kind.
I've learned a lot from cats, I must say. Like, I love that cats don't. I But my lesson with cats would be how I love how they can do what they do guilt free. Like, if they don't feel like doing anything and they just feel like lying around and kind of being a blob on the sofa and listening to music or whatever, they never punish themselves for being too lazy or whatever.
Eckhart Tolle, wonderful line where he said, I have lived with several Zen masters in my life, and
Right.
all of them have been cats.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, they good teachers.
Sniper says cats purr at a healing frequency of 27 hertz.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not.
So next time you have a headache, if you tape a cat to your head, um, it'll actually, well, it might actually end the cat's purring. So maybe that little plan will backfire.
I think of cats too, because there's something that they do that some cats, not all cats, and some humans, not all humans, but some cats and some humans, they get something that my mother calls biteitis, where they just go.
Yeah, yeah. My downstairs cat was doing that this morning.
Yeah, there you go. No good reason, just like I'm irritable. There you go. Yeah.
Um, it seems that Emily made quite an impression.
She's
It,
great.
she
She's
was. It was.
really,
You ever
really
spend time
good.
on her their website or their YouTube channel?
I've listened to several of the YouTubes. I haven't listened to all of them. Like when I see that again, that her and Robert, or her or Robert, in any case, their group, the Circle of Atonement, if they're taking a peek at a subject, some subject that I'm particularly interested in, then I watch it. But I haven't watched them all. Yeah.
She has a friend of mine, Dakini Wild, has an interview just came out today with Robert Perry, and he talks
Oh,
about
okay.
his initial forays into A Course in Miracles, which I'm not familiar really with his backstory too much.
Nor
So it would be
I.
interesting to dive in. Sniper had mentioned the three gates, and our friend Curtis in the Woods says the three gates to hell is what you're referring to. And Sniper says, great question. Eric will tell us all. So if you don't mind me going a little bit into the three gates. Um,
Please.
the three gates, um, I had first read it in relation to Buddhism, although I believe that it directly comes from Rumi, the Sufi mystic poet, in one of his poems. And he talks about before anything is spoken, and of course, I don't mean just in a casual way, but before we seek in dialogue with anyone, to let our thought pass three gates. Is it true?
Yes.
Is it necessary?
Is it
And
helpful?
is it kind?
Is it kind?
Which fits very nicely into the course.
Hmm.
And what
Say those again. So true.
is it true? Now
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna unpack a little bit. Is it true? Not do we
Hmm.
want it to be true? Do we
Hmm.
wish it was true? Do we believe that it's true? Do we
Hmm.
absolutely know 100% for certain
Hmm.
that it's true? And if it does pass that gate, then the second gate is it necessary? Do we absolutely need to say it? And not again, do we really just want to say it? So we're making it necessary for us? Is it actually necessary for the well being of that person, for this conversation, and for yourself? Is it really
Hmm.
truly necessary?
Hmm.
And the third, is it kind? Some sometimes I think if we just said that one, is it kind, it would save a whole lot of issues. This is what James Twyman's going to talk about tomorrow: depolarizing uh, politics, communities, families, friendships. So it might get a little political in a non-political way without taking sides.
All
Um,
right. Fair enough.
and ultimately, it comes down to depolarizing our own minds, where we can admit we might not know everything. That although I have an opinion and I feel strongly about it, there's a possibility that I could be wrong and that maybe you could be right. I just don't know.
Hmm.
But if we don't have a dialogue, we'll never know. And then the third part of his is maybe, which is Sniper said is like a great catalyst for allowing. Maybe is the big, I'm not going to fight over maybe. I don't want to get in trouble over maybe. I don't want to make you wrong over maybe. Um, and then the third, we don't say out loud, but it's a thought. And the thought is, I love you.
So
Because,
I got lost somewhere along the line. I was good as far as true, necessary, and kind.
right. Now, these are three separate things
Okay.
presented by James Twyman in his new book, but it
Okay.
relates to those three gates,
Oh, I see.
um,
Okay.
how to depolarize.
Oh, how to depolarize.
And I
Okay.
think the three gates is a way of depolarizing too. Uh, and ultimately, all depolarization comes in depolarizing our own minds. And hey, here's something Emily said, very interesting. Um, that the course is not a self-study program.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I know that because that was a kind of the theme that of her presentation was like the social extension, community extension, the importance of that in teaching and learning.
Um,
Um, how do you feel about that?
I'm interested. I don't know, because I approached it as self-study for a long time, but I'd
Mhm,
love to read. I've read several Robert Perry's books.
mhm.
I'm constantly reading Kenneth Wapnick.
Okay.
Uh, I found Gary Renard extremely
Tap
helpful.
tap tapping at your head.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, so I do consider them teachers, and I think
Mhm,
that right now with the internet, and when
mhm.
I started with the course, there wasn't really an internet, or it wasn't available. I was late to the internet game. I didn't get a computer until 2001 or so. Um,
I was going
but
to say something about forgiveness somewhere in the course. I'll have to look it up. It's like, and it has to do with this thing about communication and other, and the importance of that is basically, uh, yeah, we need to communicate with others for forgiveness, just like you say, to see things, because we put things out into the world onto others, and we wouldn't have the possibility of seeing our own illusions or incorrectness if we didn't do
right,
that,
it's very
or
valuable,
making those choices, if we were just like self-revolving all the time.
right? It's very valuable because, as she said, we can be very self-selective
Hmm.
in the teachings,
Yep.
um, and so it can be extremely valuable to have someone who just offers those gentle
Hmm.
corrections, gentle pointers.
Stands
Um,
in for Kenneth Wapnick.
yes. One of the things with having, a ultimately the only teacher is the Holy Spirit. Um, but we can misinterpret what we think of as the Holy Spirit. The ego is very devious, um, and can easily stand in for the Holy Spirit if if we like that easier path. If we like that, um, you know, if we get a clear message that um, you don't have to forgive this person now. He is pretty rotten, and it was a pretty mean trick. And we could say, well, the Holy Spirit told me I don't have to forgive. You know,
Yeah, I that's fine. I just don't. I don't buy into the thing that it necessarily has to be, a struggle or hard or difficult. 'Cause there, somewhere in the world, there's that too. Like something doesn't have value if it isn't like hard work or whatever. I
Right.
think I like to go back to, there is I'm thinking in Italian for some reason the word would be naturalezza, and that naturalness. No, just a receptivity, perhaps is the best way to put that. I don't know that has to be a struggle. Mm.
Right. I would agree.
Mhm.
Although I think the ego is always going to struggle.
Oh, the ego, whines, pouts, shouts, throws its arms.
Right.
The
I think
ego's
you
not
just
not well behaved. Yeah.
I think you just described me pretty well. Right there. It's like you know me. Um, hey, Ellie. Ellie says happy Monday, and it's Miss Blipper. Very excited.
Hello.
Um, you think we should, and by we, I mean you, dive into the fishbowl?
Okay. We can dive into the fishbowl. I was going to show you. I have also, as I've been working these things with my cousin. You remember our Kabbalah cards that I made? See
I do.
them? Here they are. Dee-da-dum.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I have all the whole stack because I opened the box. It was like hidden away, but I opened it and been going letting loose on that.
Hey,
So,
um, Wednesday evening at the Esoteric Lounge with Squirrel Sniper, he's going to talk about Western, um, basically Western spirituality and why we've sort of have leaned towards the East when there's very deep and legitimate Western practices, with
sure.
Kabbalah being one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um Great subject. Huge subject. I'm I've always been a fan of like people who try to, straddle those two worlds, East and West. But no, he's absolutely correct. There is
Right.
a huge occult and esoteric tradition in the West. No
Yep.
question.
Um, hey, Joe. Hawk is here. Hawk says, say Yogi Bear. Heavenly Star says, say Yogi Bear. Uh, and she was someone else who was very excited to see you. Hi, beautiful Miss Blipper.
Hellos.
Um,
So should I go into the fishbowl?
yep.
Let's
Well, let's see if
see.
anyone wants one as well. We can pull one for just for the general conversation, and then
All right.
you can do one individually. If anyone, hey, Sissy, if anyone wants any an imperative
Hi,
from
Sissy. Sister Heaven.
Heavenly says me,
Heavenly. That is that Heavenly Star. That
Heavenly
one.
Star. Yep.
Okay. Here you go.
Hey,
Fishbowl.
Lucy.
I don't know about this fishbowl though. The more I pull out of this fishbowl, the more stuffed of imperatives it seems to be. Did they like self reproduce or something, or it's like of course playing
Self
games on me? I feel like I've read
self-replicating.
so many of these, and there's like it just seems to be bulging with more. Okay, here's for heavenly. Ah, it's so sweet. It
Long.
says, ask your friend to join with you and give you certainty of where you want to go.
Nice.
Yeah, I
So,
like it.
unpacking that, who's the friend that we're asking?
I don't know. This is Heavenly's. Heavenly, do you have a friend that you can ask to join you that will give you certainty of where you want to go, that gives you some sort of confirmation, affirmation of that?
Now, if we're going strictly course related,
You're
Heavenly
going
says,
home.
sounds like Yogi Bear. Um, that ultimately we would be asking Jesus or the Holy Spirit or the symbol. That's the friend that leads us to awakening. always. Now, when we say, Jesus, for those who are not Christian, it's a symbol in the mind that symbolizes that our highest endeavor, our highest state, our best of the best of the best that we get to turn to. So
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, you definitely could be Jesus or the Holy Spirit or universal inspiration, whatever you want to call it. Could definitely all of those can definitely be your friend to join with you and something that you want to find within yourself. But it's also true that it can be like you and me and her, and so we're just kind of asking each other for an affirmation, a
sure.
confirmation about spirit, where we'd like to
Sometimes,
go.
right?
Yeah.
Agreed. Very nice. Cat and Jack is here.
Hey, Cat and Jack. Hi, Cat.
Anyone else want an imperative? We'll yank one from the self-replicating big bowl of imperatives. Um,
Yeah, just the bulging fish bowl. Yeah. Well, one fell out anyway. I guess it'll have to be for the general group. It just fell out completely on its own. Let's see, it's all twisted up too. Quite short. Take this very instant now and think of it as all there is of time. That's it, guys.
nice. I like
I
that.
like it. Yeah.
We take two more. Cat says yes, I'll take one, and Sniper says yes, please.
All right. So,
Um,
ladies first. Cat, cat, cat. She probably wants to see the fishbowl as they pull it.
I can't wait until we get fish.
Yeah, right. It'll be interesting when I finally change the subject and get into questions. Then Chipmunk will really like it. Okay. Katz says, let there be no dreams about the Christ in him. Let there be no dreams about the Christ in him that you would prefer to seeing than his perfection. So it's like about the Christ in him. Don't add any dreams. Don't let there be any dreams that you prefer rather than seeing perfection.
How is that, Cat? And then we got Sniper.
All right, Chipmunk.
Hey, easy home cooking.
Chipmunk. When is Chipmunk coming on and doing his Western
Wednesday,
occult
5:25.
activity?
So a little late for you.
Okay. I don't think he's going to like this one very much, but it does make me laugh. All right, Chipmunk, you just got to think of yourselves as my birthday boy. We're co-birthday people. You must collaborate by believing that I know what you should do.
Interesting.
Yeah, right.
And I wonder Sniper's take on that. Can we read that one more time?
I'd be happy to. I want to remind Sniper that it isn't I like Francis or Ms.Blipper or whatever it is, but it is I as in the big I, like Jesus Christ. Okay, you must collaborate by believing that I know what you should do. So this kind of gets back to what we were talking about with will and free will, and
Um,
they're not contradicting each other.
right. Do you think that contradicts free will in any way?
No.
No, because we can still choose otherwise, even if it's going
Yeah.
to be hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if and we procrastinate endlessly. We can.
Obviously, we're
Yeah.
still here. We're
We're,
still in the dream. So,
We're still procrastinating right now as we speak.
hey, Jamie, how are you, my friend? Lucy wanted one.
Lucy, hello, Lucy. Let's see, Lucy come in the world. Lucy Warren's world.
Sniper likened that to intuition, by the way.
He linked it to intuition.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, why not? I like it. Lucy, Lucy, Lucy. Lucy says, recognize your errors and choose to abandon them by following my guidance.
Right.
Again, not me. That
Nope.
would be
I'm following Ms.Blipper from now on out.
right. I don't want anybody to confuse me with Jesus Christ. He's a nice guy. I really love him, but he's his own
Can
guy.
can we read that one more time and
Ah.
let's see if we can unpack it just a little bit. I'm glad you're doing fine, Jamie.
Says recognize your errors. So, be fine with it. If you see something with yourself that, is less than satisfying, or something that you don't think is anything that's really disturbing, that just to recognize that, to recognize the errors and choose to abandon them by following my guidance.
Goes back to again that little morning prayer of um, what should I do? Where should I go? What should I say and to whom? Um, and what I love about the course is, and you mentioned this, the easiness of don't beat yourself up because you chose wrongly. Just notice, and this is what Kenneth Wapnick tells me every morning. It's okay. You made a you just chose wrong.
Right. And
Choose
there's
again.
correction for everything. Nothing it did not even, God or Jesus. They're not going around measuring faults and
Right.
punishing people.
Now
No,
Lucy
not at
says
all.
putting up boundaries, loving from a distance is that sounds like. Um, and
I don't know.
right, I was gonna say it's not for me to say yes or no, but to literally do what that imperative asks is ask. There's no place that Christ is that's not in your mind. So ask and then
Right.
wait. But know
And
that. Go ahead.
no, it returns to what you were saying about mornings. You wake up in the morning and you just say, today I won't make any decisions by myself. And you can, and then your choice is you can make decisions with the ego or you can make them with the Holy Spirit, because you're always making decisions with one or the other.
Right,
And so you just like make an invitation. I prefer to make my decisions with, the Holy Spirit. Thank you very
right.
much.
And and you really can, to sort of piggyback on what Lucy's saying, that the Holy Spirit always wants you to be safe. Never wants you to put yourself in a position
Hmm.
where you would be harmed. That would be counterproductive to waking up. So
Right.
sometimes boundaries are in order. Sometimes giving yourself that the self love protection, and as Lucy said, loving from a distance. Although ultimately there really is no distance. Love is love and all encompassing. But those boundaries can serve to protect the body, protect the give us the safety that we need in order to continue to love.
Yeah, trust the Christ inside yourself. You have it inside, and to trust that.
Agreed. So Lucy, um, it's that seemed to resonate with you. That's exactly right. I'm not going to be in a place where I feel unsafe, at
Mhm.
home or on the internet.
Good, good.
I did a little clip of Emily. Well, it came up as a short where she was talking about the internet and um, how it is a place to practice. We think of it as a free for all where or maybe not you and I, but some people I can say and do whatever I want because hey, I'm online. What harm can it do? but now we know the harmfulness of internet bullying. Um, and
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it's just gonna like um I think it was Norway recently who uh made a law saying that your face and your voice and your, facial expressions are and your name is yours. That it's illegal for, AI to take your movements and your expressions and the sound of your voice and use it to produce things which aren't you. You are the owner, the legal owner of your face and your voice. But that is not the case in other places. And so there's some risk there that,
sure,
if there's an misaligned, AI, whatever crazy.
if you look at my Facebook page and scroll down just a little bit, you'll see I shared the short with Emily, and she
Hmm.
talked about how it really is like in everywhere else in the world. It's our job, our role to make it kinder,
Make it.
right? Make it kinder.
Hmm.
That's all we need to do is someone wherever we find ourselves, try to make it kinder.
Yeah. No, I watched the whole thing. I watched the whole thing that you did with from beginning to end. Yeah.
It makes me really happy. Um, that I'd loved having Emily up, and I loved everyone that we've had up
Yeah.
so far, but
Yeah.
some resonate uh, so deeply for different reasons.
Hmm.
Um, like Alan on Monday was just so enthusiastic.
Is he yeah, he's the writer guy, right? On
Yeah,
Monday. I really liked him too. There was a lot of it was really interesting because um I asked him the question about, can he describe his story in, so many words, and he did, which is great. But then it also made me realize that yeah, there was just a lot of crossover with stories and approaches that I've taken in my, you know somehow we our minds have traveled on some similar currents. Yeah.
but and then of course David Hoffmeister, uh, very just resonated very strongly
Hmm.
with me. Uh, but there was just something really. The words that keep coming to mind is sweet and precious with Emily. There was just something
She's
sweet and
lovely, she
precious.
really is, she's lovely.
Um, I don't know if you remember James Plath, who came up. James describes himself as a mystic. Is living in Central America. Um,
I don't think I saw him.
he um, he was also a student of the course. He didn't understand the course until he did a little foray into plant medicine, and everything clicked. And he
Hmm.
finally read. He had attempted to read the text in the workbook several times, and it just he knew there was something important there. But he just couldn't get it. And then after his little trip, so to speak, um, he said it all just made sense. He's going to have me, I guess, on his podcast on the 19th.
Neat.
So
I
just
hope I hope I can see that. um Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had an I don't know. Like I really have read the course many many times. Like I want to say that I've probably been through the text like 6 or 7 times. I've probably been through the workbook like 4 or 5 times at this point. From beginning to end, and I get it. So I like, I've taken a lot of deep dives, like deep dive on forgiveness, deep dive on trust, deep dive on this, deep dive on that, and or imperatives, like the same sort of like manic, gotta
right,
know everything it says, and then I'm always like just impressed. It seems to me how little of it can stick. With me personally, like I'm just like, am I a dope or what? Yeah. No
Um,
telling. I think it does. I think the more, I guess more does resonate eventually, but
I agree. Sometimes I wonder. You know, I call it the get out of jail free card that we can carry with us. What can we pull out? What little section of the course can we pull out at any moment? That because the great thing with the course is it's holographic.
Mhm.
If you get one thing, you get the entirety. So you know that uh, one of the great master teachers, Tara Singh,
Yeah.
um, loved that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Because go ahead,
No, apart from holographic, fractal. That's the other word. That's a kind of plant
right?
medicine word. Yeah.
Um, yeah, fractal holographic. I just love the um, we don't need to get the whole thing. Ultimately, if we only get um, choosing the Holy Spirit over the ego, we get everything. And that's
I
it. There's go ahead.
Yeah. I think if we can truly forgive um anybody or anything, you probably got most of what it's got to offer seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a deep dive in forgiveness is always necessary because we can start compromising on forgiveness. Um, when we start thinking of forgiveness as um, something that we do instead of something that we see.
Yeah, but I mean, as you and I, we've discussed this a little bit. Like, there's, talking about the course or what it says, and then there's actually kind of uh, having it, integrated uh, in your mind. Meaning really putting it to practice. And so if you think about it, and I say, wow, what am I doing here? I'm just here tonight on Monday with Ms. Blipper and Eric Yogi in his basement. And the real thing is, I'm just here to recognize the Christ need. Well, that sounds really crazy, but think of like how amazing that would be, right?
And you know
There's
what?
nothing else going on, just that.
Right. That's the whole essence. Hey, Flora. That's the whole essence. I keep pointing it out. It's the whole essence of the yoga can do salutation. Namaste. We can
Yeah.
replace the word light. You know, that light within me recognizes, salutes the light within you. We can replace that with Christ. The Christ within me recognizes and salutes the Christ within
Mhm,
you, which is ultimately just Christ or
mhm,
just light.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, I love that. That's all we need to do. Wherever we go, whatever we encounter, uh, my only role is to see Christ.
Yeah,
That's it. Because
that's it.
that covers. That's even simpler than forgiveness, because that is forgiving.
Well, th- for me, the real beauty is it's real. You know, it's you could. It's kind of like the unifying essence of the sun. It's saying there really isn't anything separate
Right.
from God's love.
I use this example with Cat and Jack because she loves Peter Pan. I love Peter Pan too.
Hmm.
And in the early '90s, they did a Robin Williams Hook,
Hmm.
um, where he was what would happen if Peter Pan grew up,
Right.
became a businessman, and forgot that he was Peter Pan. Just a middle-aged, slightly overweight businessman with lots of problems.
Hmm.
Um, but his kids, Captain Hook, is bored and kidnaps his kids, and he has to remember, but he has a hard time. We can all relate as students of the Course in Miracles. We can relate to that. We don't
Yeah.
remember who we are. Um, but one of the lost boys, one of the little boys, Robin Roy starts getting these little glimmers of who he really is. And one of the lost boys rearranges Robin Roy's face and looks in his eyes, and he keeps moving the face around. And he goes, "Oh, there you are. I see you." That's literally what we're, as course students, that's literally what we're doing, is we're rearranging and we're saying, oh, there you are.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah,
And it's beautiful when we click. And that's what the course calls the holy instant, when we see that. And that's all we have to do is look for that holy instant.
yeah. Invite it, welcome it, welcome a stranger. Yeah,
Yeah. This is why, Kenneth Wapnick wrote his little pamphlet based upon a talk, cast no one out. Because if you cast someone out, you're losing that opportunity. And if you can see the face of Christ within one of his most distressing disguises, as to quote or paraphrase Mother Teresa, then wow, how much easier it's going to be to see it in a loved one.
yeah. But it also allows us to put up that for correction.
Right. So
Like, yeah, because
sometimes I
you
think it
wouldn't
might
have
be
perceived that if you didn't have to like deal with it somehow.
right. Sometimes I think it might be more difficult to see it in a loved one because we know it's there, but hey, uh, dinner was late and you burnt my toast and the kids are crying, and the dog pooped in the living room, and I don't feel like seeing the Christ in you right now. I just want to put
Right,
my feet up and watch some TV.
right, right,
I'll see the Christ in you when you make dinner,
right,
or when you do the dishes, or when you take the
right.
dog out, or when you clean up the mess.
I hear you loud and clear. In fact, you're making me laugh a lot because one of the first things, like I told you when I first, we first did breathing exercise over a year ago, was like, oh, you could be, one of my brothers, because you kind of, you look like one of my brothers, so you could be one of my brothers. And in fact, the brother that was visiting me, his name is Eric.
Oh,
Yeah, he's he's my baby brother. But exactly what you were just saying came up, meaning because they're family, because I've known him since he was born, basically, and he's known me since he was, born, and so you have that whole like stretch of years and family experiences, interpretation, sibling rivalry, and all the rest of it all along. And it's like to look just like it was really interesting. Always interesting to be reminded of that choice, even in those situations. You can look at the part of somebody that is u- unifying, that is light, like you said. I will there be light. Like I don't have to judge him or limit him as just my biological brother. Not at all. No
right.
matter what anybody says. That's not, you know, that those kind of, if something's real, if something's true, people can't really take it away from you. That's how I feel about it.
Um, I want to let we have a new friend,
All right.
um, Millicent.
Hi,
Millicent,
Milton.
I just got you with two. She wants to get to 50 subs so she can live stream. I just got you with two accounts, and
Okay.
I bet you when Ms.Blipper hops in the chat, that she'll get you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, what we're saying here is the Course in Miracles is the path of awakening through relationships. Because
Yeah,
without you,
it
I
is.
can't awaken.
Well, yeah, and also appreciation, recognition. You can recognize, yeah, you recognize your brother as yourself.
This is what Carlos Castaneda talked about, the importance of having a petty tyrant. Um, if you can awaken through someone who is pushing your buttons, whether they know you or not, or whether it's someone on the internet, um, the internet really does provide a great place for awakening if you can take it as uh, I'm going to see the face of Christ within you, or I'm going to do my best. I'm going to look. You're giving me an opportunity to look. Really, all we have to do, going back to the basics, um, and what you said with seeing the face of Christ, is we are looking for holy relationships. We're looking to turn our special relationships of you pushing my buttons, of you being someone that I dislike, of you being someone that I like very much conditionally. And I'm looking through the use of those holy instances to turn it into a holy relationship.
Hmm. Yeah, incredible how much just taking, the baby step of having a little willingness to even just question your judgments, just like maybe my judgments just aren't all that happening really. Maybe, like I don't know, but let's see. Maybe I can, yeah, just step back, not judge a certain
Right.
situation. I
I
I
like
found it really disturbing in my own, in my own process when I came to the realization at some point that I was actually like kind of spending way far too much energy trying to find what's broken or what, it's like guilt. It's not guilt induction because nobody says, oh, I want to make people feel guilty, but I'm looking for what doesn't work rather than what does,
right.
It doesn't,
I'm gonna see.
not
I'm gonna see.
helpful.
If,
Yeah.
agreed.
Lucy?
I'm gonna see if I can find a quote real quick.
Okay.
Um, I don't remember who said it. Um, but imagine if we said to ourselves, "Is this the kindest thought I could entertain right now towards myself, towards you, towards the situation?" Uh, just asking, "Is this the kindest?" Um, and that really does change uh, everything
Yep.
because you
It's
might decide,
what you're putting on the altar. What are you bringing to the altar? Are you bringing gentleness? Are you bringing peace? Are you, bringing a positivity or understanding or kindness or forgiveness? Like, what are you putting on the altar that's worth something to you?
right? I love that. Uh, bringing it to the altar. Absolutely love that. Funny, I couldn't find the quote, um, but AI overview said told me that yes, in fact, that the fact that you're asking if you can have the kindest thought is itself a kind and compassionate impulse.
Hmm.
So just asking, is this the kindest thought that I can have right now? Is you giving yourself an act of kindness? What a
Yeah,
shout out to
somewhere I
AI.
have a book and I love it. I should bring it out one day I will. It was a book that somebody way back in the 70s wrote for children, like that, like it was adult who had gotten into the Course in Miracles, so they just wrote a children's book, and it's just simple pictures but really like clear and simple little messages, and it just says, kind of like the idea is to become a love finder and not a fault finder. Do you want to be a fault finder or a love finder? Well, it works out better if you're a love finder.
True.
Yeah.
And honestly, I I don't know if you need to look for faults. I think they become self um, apparent, or the appearance of a fault. It's always going to make itself known, and now the opportunity is to see through it, to
Look beyond it.
look
Yeah,
beyond it.
look beyond it, and to not, you know like the judgment thing is not, it's not for us.
So
It's just,
ultimately, we become trapped in our own judgments,
yeah, exactly.
judging machines,
Exactly. Self-perpetuating judgment. Not,
and
no fun.
um,
Not
yeah,
much fun.
no, because they always turn back on ourselves. And even worse is when we realize the fertility of judgment, now we become self-judgmental.
Hmm.
That, I can't believe I'm judging again. I need to stop this. I'm judging, and judging, which of course is judging. Um,
Right. And we
and
are our we are not in a highest sense, but on common ground, we are our own worst enemies. Like, that kind of self-generating, self-perpetuating judgmentalness that, attacks ourselves keeps us, in a cave.
Right. This is where my imaginary Ken Wapnick uh, would tell me. Uh, so what? Just know that you're doing it, and then ultimately you can hand it over. But right now, just know that you're doing it. Because if you don't know, if you don't realize your own self judgment, and if you don't realize that every judgment towards anyone else is ultimately a self judgment that you're projecting upon someone else, um, if you're not aware of it, then it's just going to keep happening. So the fact that you're aware of it, even if you don't particularly like it, is actually pretty big.
Yeah. And it's okay just to ask the question. Is this really an ideal way of seeing things, or again, is there a better way of seeing this?
Right? Um, and what a great catalyst that conversation of Helen and Bill. There must be a better way. And
Right?
then the reply, you know,
That's what started this whole bowl of, beeswax going. There
yeah.
must be a better way.
And what if we ask that, to ourselves?
That's
Anytime
it.
we find ourselves caught up in that self judgment, in that self flagellation, and any kind of self harm,
Hmm.
um, there must be a better way.
Yeah, and I guess at the end, and this goes back to what Sniper was saying. I guess I can't remember if it's the text. Yeah, I think I can't remember if it's the text or the workbook. At the end where it's like you're going through your day and things to look at during the day, and you can even get to where there's like a certain resistance. You don't want to hand something over to um you're not willing to hand something over, like you're still attached somehow to something that's negative that's going on in your head. So even if you're unwilling to hand something over, as to get to the point, is there a better way of looking this, you can just say, okay, what I can do here is say, I don't like how I feel about this, like, so maybe it's not, the
Right.
best way, and just kind of acknowledge that you don't feel good about whatever it is, and then it makes it easier to go, is there a better way? Yeah.
Um, I think that's where the value of going over the course, um, often, maybe even continuously, as long as you feel called to do it, is just the consistent reminders of the basics. You don't have to get every single thing, but it does consistently bring you back to the basics over and over again.
I think going over and over again does continually remind us that we're not alone, and um that we're guided, basically.
Right. I have not reread I Return to Love. I've read it once
Hmm.
when it came out, and it was a valuable book to steer me in the direction of the course when I needed it. I
Hmm.
often wonder um, if I did reread it, how I would relate to it now. Um, if it would still have the value. Um, some of the old books, like I dive into Disappearance of the Universe, and it still does.
Hmm.
And um, the same with John Mundy, Awaken to Your Own Call. It always does. The very just gives you the bare bone basics of the course. Um, but Marianne Williamson, someone who in some course circles could be viewed controversial. Um, that uh, she has incorporated some outside belief systems into her teachings of the course. Um, although her most recent book, the Mystic Christ,
Hmm.
was
Yeah,
awesome.
had
I
that.
loved
Yeah.
it. Um, so the two things I want to ask you is not directly with uh, Marianne Williamson, but any outside books of the course on the course that have been influential for you? Um, And have you gone back to reread a book and thought, well, my own studies now sort of point me in a different way than how I originally interpreted this book?
I have a feeling that sometimes I read books, and even though they're not directly speaking about the course, like they might not mention it by name, it where I get a definite sense that whoever it is has been, like Alan Watts, for somebody who comes up, and I'm sure he read through A Course in Miracles, as I'm sure, who's the other guy who went to India? He was like tripping on stuff too.
Oh,
Be Here Now,
Ram
Ramdas,
Dass.
you
Yep.
know. So I feel like there are a lot of people who have uh, written books, and they have done the course, but that they're not necessarily directly. Deepak Chopra is another one,
Right. Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle. But
He was
I where I get a big feeling that there's a lot of course stuff in here, but they're not necessarily directly
right.
saying so.
Eckhart Tolle
Um,
quotes the course quite often,
yeah.
as does Deepak actually, and
Oh
Wayne
yeah,
Dyer.
I didn't know that. The book that I have by Deepak is something about like the wizard. It's like put in the
Right.
something about the
Merlin, the Way of the Wizard.
yeah, that's it. That's
Yep.
it. Um, and I like that because I find it relevant. I guess it okay. This is like a personal thing. This is Heather. For anybody who doesn't know me already in the chat, I'm in Rome, and I literally live like a stone's throw from the Pope. I mean, the Roman Catholic Church, like St. Peter's. If I walk 500 feet, I can see it. Um,
You
and
ever bump
so,
into him at the supermarket?
no, no.
No.
But I've seen worse, though. I've seen worse. I've seen them. I've seen grannies who have gone to get their, salad vegetables for lunch at the outdoor farmers market and not be able to get into the Vatican City because I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on TV. They didn't have male private parts. There you
Ah,
go. And so 2 rows of armed riot squad literally checking people's junk, you know?
well,
Yeah, impressive. And I have seen that. Um, which is just plain old weird. Mind you, that was in the 80s too. But so my point was that it's very interesting for me because this place, Rome, is very significant, as Squirrel says, in that history of Western, uh, the church. That they kept the name alive. Maybe it was just the name, but they kept it alive. I'm not Catholic. I'm not baptized. I'm not religious at all. I mean, really not at all. Um, and yet I live in a place where there's a big, 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 long history of taking the story, taking the life of Jesus, taking his teachings, taking what went on, 2,000 years ago, and kind of reformulating it and pushing it through the game of Chinese whispers to make it your own way. And that actually, I, for many years, had a very, very big interest in that. And to a certain extent, I still do, meaning I liked all of those stories. I loved reading those stories, and I would read any story that had to do, made up, fictionalized, historical fiction, like any version whatsoever. Khalil Gibran, he did a bunch of versions of, the Christ story
right.
too. I like that. And so I just see people doing that with A Course in Miracles too, like kind of putting the narrative through in their own way.
Right.
And I like
And
that. I don't mind it. I'm like, it's all good.
I think sort of Neil Donald Walsh did that with the Conversation with God
Sure.
series.
I like that
Um,
series.
yeah, me too.
Hmm.
And those were important books for me when they were important, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Sure.
And I, in the
Needed.
early '90s, I needed them because I needed to. I needed a means of wrapping my mind around God in a different sense than my Catholic upbringing, and then abandoning the concept of God and Christ when I left my Catholic upbringing behind, and I embraced a more Eastern tradition. Um, so when I started thinking in terms of uh, God again, when I started thinking of in terms of Jesus again, um, I needed to be able to have a soft approach that lead me back. And the course was not soft enough. The course was um, very. The course can be a blunt instrument, which is why people struggle with it until they don't. And I struggled with it for a long time. Um, so I had more success with Marianne Williamson. I had more success with John Mundy, um, all the way up until uh, 2007, when uh, it was reading The Spirits of the Universe, when I had this sudden realization that now it's time to study the course and only the course. That, not saying I didn't read other books, but my practice from that point on was A Course in Miracles. And
When did you get to, at what stage and all that, was the idea of like Jesus or Christ as being within you? When did that gel? When was that born?
that might have been even later than 2007. I I think uh, I think at that point it was around the time when my mom passed away, my divorce became finalized, um, and my dad had a stroke, and I was becoming more and more of a full time caregiver, um, and I needed someone very personal, um, that you know the person that I thought I could turn to, my wife, um, was no longer there in that capacity, at least at that moment.
Hmm.
Um, my father, who, you know, the most valuable person in my life, um, he was in a weakened state, and I didn't want to burden him. So I had no choice but to look in the last place that we ever looked.
The last place, the the great hideout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Hindu story of, the gods wanting to hide the self, the Atman, the soul,
Mhm.
and where to hide it. And they said, we're going to put it at the highest mountain. And they said, man's a very curious person. He'll want to climb the highest peak and he'll find it. Someone else, another god said, put it at the bottom of the sea. And they said, no, man is very, you know, exploits things. Eventually, he's going to want to get to the bottom of the sea to get the treasures and bring them up. And they named all these other places. And finally, one of the gods said, the last place that they're ever going to look, hide the soul. Yep, hide the Christ inside.
Yeah, yeah, like that.
Sniper says the Greeks knew so much more than what we have been taught by the Pope.
I agree. I agree. I am a big um, fan of Hellenistic Judaism. So not necessarily like classical rabbinical Judaism, but Hellenistic. And there was a big, again, chasm between those sides. Like who gets the power? Who runs the show? Who's
Right.
boss? Who gets to decide? But there were some brilliant minds. Some brilliant Greek minds, no question.
Hey, what's been interesting me a lot lately? Our friend Praveen and his
Mm-hmm.
wife are Christian,
Okay.
and they're in India.
Mm-hmm.
There's two schools of Christianity in India. One that came with the missionaries, and one that is actually ancient, that came from Saint Thomas
Mm-hmm.
landing in India. And it might be one of the purest forms of Christianity,
Mhm.
because it's untainted by outside influences.
Mhm.
Um, and I find that fascinating that you have to go to India to find one of the purest forms of Christianity.
I'm trying to think what is it in Etruria? I'm trying to think where the oldest like complete Bible is someplace in Africa too. I'm mixing up in my brain with Etruria, and Etruria doesn't have anything to do with it. It's not Ethiopian. Maybe it is Ethiopian. Maybe it is Ethiopian, and there's still again a very active um, ancient Christian group. But there were, I mean, that's how I kind of got into this mess to begin with. Was I was very young, not very young. I was like 17 or 18 or something, and stumbled upon the Gnostics
Right.
division and their mythology because I like mythology, and so it just kind of set me on a different path.
Speaking of which, I mentioned this a couple of days ago and said that I was going to find it and read something from it. Prayers of the Cosmos. Um,
I don't
what?
know. What is it? Prayers of the Cosmos?
Yep. Um, it's you'll see it backwards.
Uh-huh. I see it. Yeah.
Um, and it is meditations on the Aramaic words of Jesus.
Mm.
And I think you guys might like it real quick. Um,
So they went back because the words that we had, the first words were, the first things were Greek Coptic. That was the word I was looking for, Coptic Christians. Um, yeah, there's some debate as to whether the Greeks, translated from the Hebrew or they just did the first editions themselves.
right.
Certainly for the Torah, they translated, but with New Testament stuff, it's not. Could have been the Greeks, could have been
Sure.
Hellenistic Greeks.
You want to hear the Lord's Prayer translated from original Aramaic?
I've heard that before, and I do know that in that particular case, they went from the Greek to the Hebrew to the Aramaic, so they didn't translate from the Aramaic.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's one version of it
Mhm.
right here. Focus your light within. Focus your light within us. Make it useful as the rays of the beacon show the way. Help us breathe one holy breath. Feeling only you, this time creates a shrine inside in wholeness. Help us let go, clear the space inside of busy forgetfulness so the name comes to live. Your name, your sound can move us if we tune our hearts as instruments for its tone. Hear the one sound that created all others. In this way, the name is hallowed in silence. In peace, the name resides, a room of one's own, a holy of holies, open, giving light to all. We all look elsewhere for this light. It draws us out of ourselves, but the name always lives within. Focus your light within us, make it useful.
Lovely. Tell me again the part about the Holy of Holies.
Yep. In peace, the name, capital M, resides. A room of one's own, a holy of holies, open, giving light to all.
Oh, okay. All right. But
It's
that's
very,
very interesting.
very course related.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because the Holy of Holies, the first time the Holy of Holies is mentioned is about the temple. It was a part of the temple. It was within, where only the priests could go. And so they're the only ones who had access to the Holy of Holies. So they're kind of like
right.
breaking that open.
And this is another one of the things about Aramaic, as this translator points out, is you can arrange them in different orders,
Hmm.
and you get a totally unique presentation. But the meaning itself, the essence itself, remains the same. Let me know if you can figure out why I love this version most of all. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. O thou, the breathing life of all, creator of the shimmering sound that touches us, respiration of all worlds, we hear you breathing in and out in silence, source of sound and the roar and whisper of the breeze, and whirlwind we hear your name. Radiant one, you shine within us, outside us, even darkness shines when we remember. Name of names, our smallest identity unravels in you. You give it back as a lesson. Wordless action, silent potency. Where ears and eyes awaken here, heaven comes. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos.
Oh, there's a
Notice
lot of breathing in there, isn't
there's a
there?
lot of breathing in there. Absolutely. You picked it up.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, this is right up Sniper's alley. This is uh, the stuff that he's got his fingers on the pulse.
Yeah,
As he
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that.
he says, I hear the corpus uh, hermeticum, a
Hmm.
collection of 17 Greek writings. Did I get that name right?
Yep.
I'm never going to say it
Yes.
again
Yes.
because
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I
You
don't
said
think
it
I could.
perfectly. Good Latin.
That's why
Way
I'm
to
going to
go.
retire it because I said it perfectly. I'm going to drop the mic. I
Hermes Trismegistus. Terrible name. Yeah.
um, attributed to the legendary figure, yeah, Hermes.
Thoth.
Now, how does this relate to Plato, Socrates? Um,
Well, the information, the the whole Mediterranean basin way back when was just so much was going on and people were getting around a lot more, but the same old power struggles that we see today, um controlling the narrative. Who wins, who's boss, and what is their style. Like the Romans, they were kind of conquerors. They were, they were like beat it up and take it. They
right,
weren't all, but it was the whole Mediterranean basis. Egypt, Carthage, Greece, Turkey, they had different boundaries than Rome as well, of course. um and the Middle East, um just so rich in the exchange. It wasn't just merchandise, it was a true exchange of spirit, philosophy, mind, growth. A lot was going on, and just the it was kind of like those um, contrasting cultures, and they that was very enriching. It was very inspiring and enriching. One group, like for example, the Etruscans and the Greeks. They didn't get along. They had different systems. They had different gods, different ways of looking, different mythologies, for the most part. So they had a kind of a love-hate thing going, because they they could be afraid of the differences, and they could be disrespectful of the focuses, and what people were what the cultures were prioritizing. On the other hand, they were totally fascinated by each other.
right,
Wanting to know what was going on there, and so they would like kind of almost like the material exchanges were almost secondary meaning. So this one's got glass, and this one's got metal, and this one's got ceramics, and this one's got tools, um and so they could use their material things, but it was almost like an excuse to actually be getting at what was going on inside the culture, inside the soul, which is just utterly fascinating. And that's where also the Greeks and the Greek Jews. It was like it was kind of a, I don't know, intellectual love affair. I don't know how else to put it quite. They weren't, they could go, okay, you're Jewish and you have different customs than us Greeks, but give us everything you've got. Give us everything. We the pull, the magnetic pull to growth was huge, huge. Also Egypt, yeah.
Sniper says Atlantean knowledge. I have a feeling that was given to the Greeks.
Atlantean,
Mhm.
yes, yeah, but through the Egyptians.
Huh. Sniper had a talk a couple weeks ago on Egyptians. How uh, it was those who came before the Egyptians
Yeah,
where all the knowledge
yeah, the
was
Atlanteans. The Atlanteans came before the Egyptians.
interesting. I'm not very versed in that. Um,
No,
sometime,
nor I, but I mean, I do live on this side of the world,
right?
so it's like it's there. Yeah.
Sometime, I'd like to touch upon just a bit Course Miracles and Freud. How
Oh wow.
Wapnick has said that it, the course could not have come through had it not been for uh, Freudian psychology and the study of the
Wow.
ego. That he's not saying that he was on point with everything ego wise, but it gave us
Right.
a viewpoint,
Mm-hmm.
a workable map of
Mm-hmm.
the ego, so
Mm-hmm.
that we could understand it, so that
Mm-hmm.
the course could come through. It's something interesting to attempt.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, Freud put ego on the map. I mean,
Right.
he did. He put it on the map. I would even take it one step further and just say there's got to be a lot going on with Carl Jung as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and dreams and
It,
archetypes, and
it yeah, it seemed to me that Jung was just where Freud stopped, where he sort of became afraid to embrace those mystical experiences, even though he had his own little brushes, on the edge of mystery. Carl Jung said, "Let's dive in and see what it is. Let's be
Mhm.
unafraid of diving into deep into that psyche and find out what we find and report back." Interesting. Sissy says because the theological views were considered heretical, but didn't offer the historic version of Jesus with the same respect as being heretical.
Say that again. Okay, I know about heresy, and but what I'm interested in this. What did she say?
But she was talking about the Hokmah Sophia was only mentioned in biblical history, but
Oh,
ignored as a female
the
version of God.
Pistis Sophia. It's a Gnostic document.
Right. She says, which I find sus. That's kids slang, by the way, for suspect. Um,
Oh, she
um,
finds Pistis Sophia suspect.
I guess that it was hidden. So I said, how
It's
so?
Gnostic. There was a one the Gnostics were considered heretics by the Roman Catholic Church, so they had to go underground, and so I guess there's a whole not all the documents that were written. Some were kind of basically it's actually kind of interesting. Both the Hebrews and the Romans, both groups, kind of like would pick and choose their literature as to what promoted their point of view. And if something could injure or detract from their power, they were not having it. Like, kill it, burn it, get rid of it, send it underground, and that's what happened with what is called a lot of apocrypha. Apocrypha is the word which means ancient literature that isn't mainstream,
Right. Interesting.
and by
Um,
mainstream I mean church approved. Yeah.
right. Yeah, as soon as something becomes church approved, it's lost something. It's been sanitized, sanctified. Um,
Uh,
so
um yeah, people, it's kind of like the ego just gets attached to its own stuff. But
yeah,
again, I credit them at least with, keeping the name up. I mean, it might not be the same name. Maybe they're calling him Jesu or Jesus instead of Yeshua. But they they have kept a story alive, and I don't want to say it's the only version or the real version or the best version, but if everything was one big game of what we call Chinese whispers, where everybody's just like tooting things in people's ears, who are tooting things in people's ears, on and on and on, through ballads, through songs, through prayers, through cultures, through interpretations, through messages. The church has done a pretty good job of keeping the name alive.
It sounds fairly optimistic.
Yeah, I don't what they do with it.
Right.
Did they change it, mutate it?
I've heard
Um, yeah.
historical scholars, biblical scholars, say that the only actual words spoken in the New Testament by Jesus were probably the Sermon on the Mount, the
Hmm.
Beatitudes. Now, of course, Sniper's talking about Gospel of St. Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
which, of course, I'm talking about the recognized New Testament.
Gospel of Thomas is a Gnostic gospel. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and that if every single word in the New Testament was destroyed except for the Beatitudes, that alone would be enough to base an entire religion upon. And it would probably be a very beautiful religion. Imagine if and I've seen this often, imagine if we hung the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount, in courthouses, in courtrooms, instead of the Ten Commandments.
Right.
Uh, and, when Jesus was asked the greatest of the commandments, he boiled it down to two.
I know. I always kind of like the of that story. I liked his humanity. I mean, that's not all I like. You know, I like his connection more than anything. His connection with spirit.
Right.
And I think of him as kind of a fascinating, mind, truly. But yeah, to um, there's a reason. I'm convinced that there's a reason that that story is still kicking around.
Right. Uh, Buddha says we are all one. He has over 72 names. The Bergs wrote a book on the 72 names of God. Beautiful
Hmm.
book. I
Hmm.
got it in the other room. Who was the most famous? I'm going to drag that out and maybe see if people want me to pick from 1 to 72, and I'll read one of the names of God for them. Who is the most famous in meditation? Um, it's the same. I've read the Kabbalah. I've been born and raised as Catholic, and it's all the same except the Quran. I do not agree with.
There's nothing you can't read the Kabbalah. It's not a book. Maybe the book The Kybalion. Is that what they're talking about?
Zohar.
Zohar. Okay.
Buddha says, awesome yogi. I love Catholic Mass in Latin.
Hmm.
There's something so ceremonial
Hmm.
about it. And then they put it in English, and I was like,
Hmm.
eh.
If you really want to have fun, so there's a museum in Rome near Villa Borghese, a very big museum uh, called Giulia, and it has, I know because it's got the largest Etruscan collection. And so I was just describing it. So it's three hallways, and there's a hall, and I'm talking like 260, 300 to 500 BC, so like way before Jesus, right? And there's these hallways, and one of them's Latin, and one of them's Greek, and one of them Etruscans. And the Latins, they look like triglodytes compared to the Greeks. It's like the Greeks are coming up with these like vases and these amulets, and just like fancy bracelets, and same thing with the Etruscans, just like art over the top. And then you get to the Latins, and it's like sticks and stones. They're just like not anywhere close. Yeah.
Um, let's see. Buddha was saying that maybe saying it wrong, but I've read the words to understand, and they pinpoint all the chakras.
What pinpoints all the chakras?
Kabbalah sort of has their own.
Oh, the Sephiroth. They're emanations, and that's really interesting because a little bit different than chakras, and they there is an association because they do somewhat line up, somewhat, but I like to think that the emanations, so they're called the Sephiroth, are more um, metaphorical
Right.
than chakras. But maybe that's because I don't know as much about chakras, and there's more of them. So there's 10 Sephiroth and 7 chakras.
I'd
As
love
far
to
as I-
talk to. Buddha is a uh, qigong practitioner. Uh, I would love to talk to her sometime about uh, chakras, um, and as well as the um, uh, Sephiras and the Danteans, as they're called in Taoism, energy centers,
Mhm,
and the connections where they come together, where they might differentiate a little bit, would
mhm,
be sort of interesting to bridge those uh, together.
mhm. Yeah, I don't think of Sephiroth as just energy centers. Like I would think of chakras as energy centers. I like to think of the Sephiroth as ideas, representations on like a map of the soul.
Would you think of
So
them as archetypical, that they're archetypes in a collective consciousness?
yeah, sure. Very tied into sacred geometry, and I'm sure Squirrel will talk about that tomorrow. Yeah.
And Buddha says it's a
Great.
very cool experience. Learning chakras are energy. And
Mhm,
yes, you're right. And Sniper says, Buddha, if you use the path of the tree of life, just remember it's inverted and reversed. The female pillars are actually on the right side. And the other, Buddha says, and the other is, yes, like a map, geometric patterns, like artwork online.
mhm.
Cool. Um,
That's what these cards that I was showing you before. They're all that. They're all. I want to say how many of them are there. There's 49, 59 of them. So they're all like this would be Bina. Bina's like 3 lines.
cool.
And
You've made these.
I made all of these, yeah.
Have you ever thought about marketing them?
Um, I'm such a crazy perfectionist that I mean, I want to say that this is probably like my fifth, if not sixth version of making them. And I like these because I like that they're on cards. This one's really nice. This would be, for example, the uh aspect of Yesod within Netzach. I don't know if you can see it so well. But so uh, I'm just a perfectionist. So, I would either have somebody else do the artwork better or I would
Uh,
do them again. But I just like them because they're handmade.
right. I'd like to see you, and I'd love to see you do something, and I would be first in line uh, to buy my set, to buy my deck.
I've been reading them lately. We've been making arrangements, different arrangements, and picking things out of the hat, much like the fishbowl.
Okay, maybe we can do that sometime
Yeah,
up here. So we're gonna have to wrap things up. I'll be
right.
back in about 2.5 hours. I got a big day tomorrow. I got
Mhm.
James talking about depolarizing our minds, our communities, our friends, family, politics, the world eventually, hopefully,
I'm
because we
not
need it.
sure I understand what depolarizing means. Is that balancing? Like
Uh,
poles, I think of poles like north, south,
right.
east, west.
Well, we're polarized, as in me against you.
Okay.
You know, where we think in terms of, hey,
All right.
if you're north, then
Mhm.
I'm south.
Mhm.
If you're south, I'm north. If you're east,
Like
I'm
I'm a
west.
Democrat and you're a Republican.
Yes, and which is fine as long as we realize they're labels that you're not really a Democrat,
Mhm.
uh, and that's just how you vote.
Mhm.
You
But
know,
I'm a
you
woman and you're a man.
right, but
But not
and
really like a Republican and a Democrat.
well, not really too. Ultimately, I am not a body. I am free.
Okay. All right.
Um, and ultimately we're not bodies, but we relate to a certain extent through those um, seeming opposites, the
Mhm.
contrast, which
Mhm.
is fine. I actually wrote about that this morning.
Yeah, I
Um,
always liked that about angels. I always liked that angels weren't really female or male.
right. Um,
Like they just don't
and
care.
but we become so polarized that we believe we are those labels, deeply so. That I'm not just a Republican. Uh, I bleed red. I am. Uh,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? That if
Yeah,
you are
people become attached to them
sure,
as shields because they're afraid. Yeah.
if you're not for me, then you have to be against me.
My way or the highway.
Yep. And it gets more and more extreme and extreme and extreme to the point where now political violence is even not just that it happens, but now it's weaponized.
Yep.
We've weaponized the weapon of political violence to
Mhm.
serve a purpose for a political agenda. And
Yeah, and it's sad to think that fear can be manipulated, that it's so effective as a manipulation tool.
yep. So uh, he's going to talk all about that tomorrow and how we
All
can
right,
do it.
James. Good
And
going.
then Tom Wakechild is coming up. What a perfect name for a course student, Wakechild. Um,
I met a guy in DC 100 years ago when I was there, like I was just a little punk kid, and I was at a demonstration. He told me his name was Quiet Please Helper. I thought that was I thought that was a pretty cool name. His name's go.
um, yeah, so tomorrow's going to be a big day. And the week
Excellent.
kicked off um, with Mondays with MsBlipper, the return of MsBlipper. Mondays are my favorite days because of you. I, I love
Aw,
I love starting the week off with you, uh,
bless your
and
heart.
all things course related because we never know where it's going to go. We get to cover so much, but it's always we always set that tone of love. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that I think that you set a very fine demonstration of the course.
Hmm. Well, you're willing the light today. There you go.
I am.
It's your lesson.
Um, so we'll be back tonight, and I think if I remember, I'm going to dig out my big book, The 72 Names of God, and maybe you guys, people in the chat, can call out a number.
I I wonder if the 72 names of God are the 72 Hebrew names of God, which are the rearrangements, forward, backwards, gematria, because there are 72 Hebrew names of God
Right.
as well.
I believe it is the 72 Hebrew names.
Okay.
It's by the Bergs, one
Oh
of the
yeah,
Bergs.
that would be them. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be them.
So that's going to be interesting. Sniper
Mhm.
Buddha says, "Awesome 55." Let me put that down in my big little book of remembering important things. Let's see.
We are not the mind, we are a soul. We have been subprogrammed into biological warfare until we become awareness, then decide to level up to embodiment, aka being I am as I am. That would be Eya, Eya, I am as I am, the name that God gave Moses. I'm talking to Sissy here. I'm just responding to something I'm reading that she wrote. But I don't know that we're not mind. We are definitely souls. We are a soul, but we're a soul. with mind and with emotion and with with
Right.
body and
Of
spirit.
course, the course uses mind a little differently than we generally associate mind and brain as being the same. So,
Right.
with regards to what Sissy's saying, as far as like we are not the brain, that we are not the mind, we're not that thinking, which is true. But the course relates it as well as Buddhism, the Buddha mind, um, that it's just mind, just consciousness,
Yeah. That's
just
what the course
awareness.
would say.
Um,
Yeah, mind is definitely mind is like a medium for spirit to come through. But I would include spirit and mind or thought, call it what you will, intellect, rational, and emotion and body. I would put all of those bits into
right.
existence.
And ultimately,
Into
God
the
is mind.
soul. The
Yeah,
soul has all those bits.
sure.
Hmm.
Ultimately, God is mind, which in yoga would be Brahma.
Hmm.
Um, and then we are the Atman, ideas in the mind of God, little aspects of soul
Hmm.
within that one infinite mind, but never separate
Yeah.
from the mind itself.
Yeah, yeah. We don't want to cancel out mind as an idea because it's like it's helpful. It's like there's a lot of power in mind. It's always there. It's always going.
Sniper says he is number 5 for the names of God for later.
Oh,
So I
okay.
got you, Sniper. It's just Sissy says remembrance that we are entanglements of pure consciousness. So wild. Fractals.
Fractals.
Indra's jewels, the god Indra, and his infinite web of jewels. That one jewel reflected infinite other jewels, and on and on. Or the story that was told to um, William James when a woman stood up and said, I'm a firm belief that the universe rests upon the back of a turtle." And William James smiled and said, "Yes, but what's underneath the turtle?" And she smiled. She smiled back and said, "You think you have me, but it's turtles all the way down." Uh, I love that.
It is nice.
All right, so guys, I hope you tune in tomorrow. I hope you tune in later. I know it's going to be late for you, but um, hopefully we'll see you with James, and then maybe you can rewatch Tom tomorrow night.
Good.
And uh, Corinne, uh,
When's that happening, Corinne?
she wants to do it on the um, this Friday at 1 p.m. Oops, nope. She said scratch that. Friday. That was the beep going on. Friday the 14th at 1 p.m.
Okay.
She wants to talk about anything and everything. She just wrote a wonderful piece, and she did a YouTube video on Course Miracles and DEI.
Yeah, I think I saw like a blip somehow. It's like
And we
really
tie
ringing a
that
bell
together.
for
That's
me.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to talk mostly about anxiety in A Course in Miracles,
Okay.
using Course in Miracles to reduce our anxiety. All anxiety stems from the belief that we are small, alone, separate from the source. If we heal that, we heal everything. Now,
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety in thinking you're separate from God or
yeah,
believing that you're separate from God.
and we could stem all the other things that we think we're anxious of. We're anxious because of our job, because of an exam, because of our funds. But all that, if we truly knew that we were at home in the mind of God, God being the source of all things, we wouldn't have to rely on the source. I'm suffering this anxiety myself right now. I've taken a doing YouTube full time, and my channel's taken a bit of a hit. Um, and I got to remember my source isn't YouTube. YouTube is just a reflection of the source. The source is always the source. The source is always God. Um, and that's the ultimate lesson in trust that they point out in the characteristics of God is you've placed your value on, you've misplaced your value. You're thinking that this is valuable, but it's not. Could be useful in everyday life, but if you're placing all of your value upon this, If I'm saying that, that this is my source, that YouTube is my source, I'm mistaken, and it's going to cause me suffering and anxiety. But when I know that
Yeah,
God is,
your value is established by God. Period. There's
yeah,
no way around that.
and it's good to remember
Yeah,
because we forget.
yeah, yeah.
And I just had a friend uh, just send me another text right here. She's been watching my lives. She was one of the first people to come up. My friend Nadie, who's a
Hmm.
early student. I've known her for 25, 26 years.
Well,
Um, she told me to never call her my old friend. By the way, we're just friends who have known each other for a long time.
okay.
Um, and she says she's been watching my channel for lately, watching the lives, and she wants to know what I hope to achieve, what I look to achieve, and how she can help. Um, and um, I think it's going to come by to what am I looking to achieve is seeing the face. I'm going to go back to your wonderful, wonderful statement. I only hope to achieve to see the face of Christ in everyone who comes to my live stream.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. And all things will be delivered from there. Yes, I do this full time. Uh, and it comes down to trust that what I need is given and given freely.
Yep. And also that by that giving that away, giving that light away, giving that love away, extending that love because it isn't a material thing. But that's how we keep it. That's how we keep it alive.
Yes.
Then you really are becoming a. It's a part of the process of becoming a kind of a co-creator. Yeah.
If I hadn't already established Just a Yogi, I would think of rebranding my channel as a place of kindness.
I like it. You can do that too
I thought about
eventually.
just a yogi, a place of kindness, or I thought about just every live stream, just unless it's a guest, unless it's um, Monday miracles with MsBlipper or esoteric lounge with Sniper, it would be just a yogi. This is a place of kindness.
I like it.
I think
I
we'll do
like
it.
it.
Thank you. All right,
Okay.
so MsBlipper, thank you,
Thank you. Bye,
guys. We
everybody.
will see everyone later. Love you all. Sync bug.
Love y'all.
Sorry we didn't get a chance to chat, my friend. Buddha says great live view too. It always is with MsBlipper. Um, and man, thanks. Come on by this evening and we'll pick out a name from the 72 names of God in Hebrew. Don't ask me to pronounce it. I'll do my best. Love you guys.